Imagine moving into your dream home, only to have your disabled wife's van towed by a power-hungry HOA. And then she brings out her secret K-9 unit connections to fight back. It all started on a seemingly ordinary morning when we moved into our new home at Maplewood Estates, a picturesque neighborhood that promised tranquility and community spirit. My wife, Lisa, who has been disabled since an unfortunate accident years ago, and I were excited to start a fresh chapter. But little did we know that our dream home would soon turn into a battleground against an oppressive homeowners association. On our very first day, while I was unpacking boxes and Lisa was adjusting her wheelchair at the window, there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find a sharply dressed woman with perfectly styled blonde hair, holding a clipboard and flanked by two men in crisp polo shirts. "Welcome to Maplewood Estates," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm Eleanor Matthews, president of your new HOA, and we need to discuss your mandatory membership and the first month's dues." I was taken aback because our closing documents clearly stated that our property was exempt from HOA membership. The realtor had even mentioned that our lot was built long before the HOA was established. Before I could even ask a question, Eleanor's smile vanished, replaced by a cold, businesslike glare. "Bring your paperwork to the board meeting on Wednesday at 7 p.m., she stated curtly, thrusting a thick folder into my hand. "Oh, and while you're at it, remove that wheelchair ramp by your side door. It's an eyesore according to our aesthetic guidelines." I returned to the living room, trying to process the absurdity of the situation. Lisa, ever resilient despite her physical challenges, simply looked at me with determination and said, "We're not backing down on this." As we pored over the documents that evening, our suspicions were confirmed. The house we bought was indeed legally exempt from the HOA's jurisdiction. Yet, it seemed Eleanor was hell-bent on forcing us into compliance by any means necessary. The next day, while I was busy at work, Lisa had her physical therapy appointment. It was then that I received a frantic call. Someone had booted her specially equipped van right outside our driveway. My heart sank as I hurried home to find Lisa in a heated standoff with a tow truck driver, with Eleanor watching intently from her porch. The driver, brandishing a form signed by the HOA, claimed that the van violated community standards because of a sticker on it that Lisa had from her days as a K-9 officer. "This is a commercial vehicle," he argued, though Lisa calmly countered that it was her service vehicle, crucial for her mobility and independence. Tension crackled in the air as Lisa, with a voice both firm and calm, warned, "Remove that boot now, or I'll have my former captain call in the cavalry." Within minutes, a patrol officer arrived, and the boot was reluctantly removed. However, the damage was done. Our safe haven was turning into a hostile territory. That night, as Lisa and I sat in our living room reviewing every detail of the HOA's guidelines, 56 pages of nonsensical rules that dictated everything from grass height to the absence of commercial decals on a disabled person's van, we realized this wasn't just about a bureaucratic error. This was a systematic abuse of power. Determined to stand up not only for ourselves but for all residents being bullied by the HOA's arbitrary rules, we began gathering evidence. We reached out to neighbors, many of whom had their own horror stories. Fines for minor infractions, harassment over harmless modifications, and even eviction threats. Lisa, drawing from her past as a respected K-9 officer, became the voice of reason and defiance. She reached out to old colleagues and even her former captain, who provided us with crucial contacts in law enforcement and legal aid. The more we dug, the more we discovered that Eleanor Matthews had a history of exploiting her position. Several complaints about her overreach in other neighborhoods had mysteriously been dropped, and there were whispers of kickbacks between the HOA and the towing company responsible for our van's booting. By the time the board meeting rolled around on Wednesday, our neighborhood was buzzing with anticipation. The community center, a modest building with a single ramp, had been transformed into a battleground where the oppressed residents were ready to demand justice. I walked in with the original deed, a 2003 property survey, and other documents that clearly stated our exemption. Lisa, undeterred, made a striking entrance in her formal police uniform, her medals and a cherished photo with her K-9 partner proudly displayed. The room fell silent as the evidence was laid out on the long boardroom table. Eleanor's eyes darted nervously as the board members, some of whom had secretly grown tired of her heavy-handed tactics, began questioning the legitimacy of her authority. One board member, an older woman named Judith, pointed out irregularities in the HOA's financial records. Eleanor had been skimming nearly 30% of the dues for personal expenses, including lavish landscaping for her own vacation property. Gasps filled the room, and murmurs of disbelief quickly turned into a roar of support for Lisa and our cause. As the meeting escalated, more neighbors came forward, sharing their own grievances against Eleanor's mismanagement. One by one, the residents revealed instances of discrimination and petty harassment that had become all too common under her regime. The meeting took an unexpected turn when a local news crew arrived, capturing every moment of the confrontation. It wasn't long before the tide had completely turned. The board voted unanimously to refund all towing fees, repeal the mandatory membership rule, and launch an independent audit of the HOA's finances. In a dramatic twist, Eleanor was escorted out of the meeting by local law enforcement, her authority completely dissolved in the face of overwhelming evidence and community solidarity. That evening, as the neighborhood gathered in a spontaneous celebration outside our home, we realized that this was more than just a personal victory. It was a statement against corruption, a reminder that no one should ever be bullied by a system that's supposed to protect them. Neighbors embraced, shared laughter, and toasted to the spirit of community empowerment. The next day, Lisa received a call from the county prosecutor informing her that a search warrant was being executed on Eleanor's vacation property, apparently purchased with misappropriated HOA funds. The news spread like wildfire, and soon residents from other neighborhoods affected by similar tactics began reaching out, seeking advice and support. Lisa, with a gentle smile and unyielding strength, said, "This isn't just our fight. It's for every family that's ever been silenced by an overbearing system." In the weeks that followed, the community formed a new committee dedicated to accessibility and fair housing, with Lisa as its chair. Our once quiet neighborhood became a beacon of hope and resilience. We hosted a community barbecue in our backyard, complete with accessible playground equipment and a renewed sense of belonging. Conversations flowed freely as neighbors, once divided by fear, now united to build a better future together. Looking back, what started as a single act of defiance against an oppressive HOA evolved into a movement that redefined community living. It taught us that the power of unity, informed by justice and compassion, can overcome even the most entrenched corruption. And as I sit here recounting this tale, I'm reminded that sometimes it takes one brave soul to ignite a revolution, one that reminds us all that our voices matter, and that real change begins when we say, "Enough is enough." So, if you've ever felt powerless against an unjust system, remember our story. It's not just about a van or a set of outdated rules. It's about standing up for what's right, protecting your loved ones, and creating a community where every individual is respected and valued. And that, my friends, is a fight worth fighting.